What's going on, guys? Welcome back to GWA on TEW 2020. This is episode 3. This is the series in which we've made our own company to hopefully rival the World Wrestling Federation and World Championship Wrestling. We've still got a long way to go, but I'm excited to get back into it. Like I said, it's episode 3. We've got another really cool show for you guys. Here's the second episode of our TV show, which is GWA Showcase. We won't really run through everything that happened. You can see kind of a summary there on screen right now. I know I took quite a while to get this episode out, so if you need a refresher, maybe just go back and watch that episode or just read this, whatever works for you. But I'm keen to get into it. I'm pretty happy with this show. I don't know if it's as strong of a show as last episode, but we're certainly going to find out. I think there's some really good story progression and whatnot. Before we get into it, there are a couple updates to go through. I think the first thing is our tag team division is kind of lacking at the moment. Like, it's a good list of tag teams, but I'm pretty sure we've only got 2 heel tag teams, which are the New Breed and the Samoan SWAT team, and then everything else is just baby faces, which some of you guys may notice, maybe you don't, I don't know, but we have a new tag team joining us. We have the Southern Boys, Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong. They are the current WCW United States Tag Team Champions, and they'll be debuting on this week's episode of Showcase. Very keen for that, very excited to see how that turns out. Hopefully they're really cool performers, but we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, the topic of tag teams and why I bring it up is we have another heel tag team on the way. So we have Ivan Koloff, and I just thought, you know what, let's bring in Nikita Koloff, which I believe they're listed as a tag team in here. They are, the Russians. There you go. The only thing is Nikita Koloff, he's actually shortlisted at the moment. He is out for 2 weeks on personal reasons. I don't know what the backstory is, but yeah, in 2 weeks we'll pick up Nikita Koloff and he'll come and join Ivan, and we'll have another tag team in the ranks, which I'm pretty keen for. I really want to try and bolster our tag team division if we can. Another signing that we've actually made is Chris Cruz. He was there last week as kind of our interviewer guy, you know, when they would have like the stage, the set for the interviews that would be out near the ring. He would be that guy, and we called it the Chris Cruz Corner, and I still want it to be a regular thing. But we didn't actually have him on the roster because we didn't think to get an interviewer at the time, so we just hired him on a local deal. Can confirm he is now officially on the roster, so we'll see a lot more of Chris Cruz. He has at least 2 segments on today's show, so hopefully he does well. The other thing, or the final update before we get into the show, which I can't actually show you in PM mode because it just pops up with this. We've made our pay-per-views, or as we're calling them, supercards, we've made them monthly. Previously, I think it was, I don't remember what it was set as, maybe every 2 months, maybe every 6 weeks or something. I don't know, but I didn't want to do each month because I felt like that was a little bit overkill. But because the TV tapings aren't that great financially, I just thought, let's add more of those events. I don't think I'll do any more than a month, like more frequently, but yeah, we're gonna try and aim for a month. I don't know what the first supercard is going to be called. I had a title in mind that I may still use. We had some suggestions from comments that we may still use as well, but I don't know. If you guys have any more ideas, let me know, and we might have that be our first pay-per-view title. Anyways, with that being said, I think it is time to jump into episode 2 of GWA Showcase. I'm excited to show you guys what we've got, so let's not waste any more time. Alright, so we have an attendance of 2,100. Or 2,100 in the Southwest region, just a generic venue, because there's no real venues in that region that suit the expected attendance. That's fine, we can manage. In a pre-show bout that didn't have much heat and terrible wrestling, Shane Douglas defeated Al Burke in 9:22 by pinfall with the Pittsburgh Plunge. Now these pre-show matches, I'm sure I stated this in the first episode, but I really just use the pre-show matches to kind of test out people, see what kind of ratings they get. And this is kind of one of my typical go-to pre-show matches. We have Shane Douglas. He's a guy that I would love to use in the future. I'm actually a Shane Douglas fan, and he's relatively young at the time. I think he's in his mid to late 20s at this moment. So yeah, I would love to use him. So we're testing him out. Al Burke is just a local worker, someone we can just kind of bring in and job out. And you know, if the local workers put on a good performance, then we'll absolutely look at signing them. But a 28 from Al Burke, not that great, if we're being honest. I think the local worker from last week, Mike Anthony, got like a 36, I believe. So, you know, I can't see us signing Al Burke. Maybe some more jobber spots though, who knows. In a poor pre-show match, the Rock and Roll Express defeated Vampire Warrior and Brian Clark in 9 minutes 40 when Ricky Morton pinned Brian Clark with a double dropkick. Brian Clark was the weak link, struggling to keep up with everyone else in ring performance. Okay, so 54. Actually, in terms of the number, I think that's okay. But as I said in the first episode, I'm going more off of this description. Just because we don't yet know what our kind of average for matches is going to be. I mean, we kind of do, but 4 pre-show matches isn't great. Rock and Roll Express did really well, 16:58. Happy with that. Brian Clark was the jobber here, the local worker here. I know he would eventually go on to join WWE and WCW, one or the other, maybe both, I don't know. But Gangrel, Vampire Warrior, is actually on the roster, so I wanted to try him out as well, even though we knew he was going to lose. But a 41, you know, I think we can work with that. It's going to take some time to build him up and make him stronger, but 41's a decent starting point, I think, so we'll take it. In a decent pre-show match, Dino Bravo defeated Al Snow in 10:26 by pinfall with a belly-to-back suplex. These guys are both on the roster. Dino Bravo's one of the higher-ups in terms of perception. Al Snow, not that much, but he still put on a really good performance, so I think we might try and use Al Snow efficiently soon. Dino Bravo, of course, as well, pulling out 57. Pretty happy with that. But with that said, that is the end of the pre-show. Let's jump into the actual televised portion of the program. We have 4 matches on the card, quite a few segments, so let's jump into it. So we start things off with the Chris Cruz corner. We see Tully Blanchard and his new valet, Paul Ellering, which, just a little recap from last week. Tully Blanchard was in the main event against one of the greatest world champions in all of wrestling, Bob Backlund. And after Tully Blanchard had spoken about becoming the Ultimate Wrestler and stepping out of Ric Flair's shadow and the Four Horsemen's shadow and stepping into the limelight for himself, he ended up having Paul Ellering come out and cost Bob Backlund the win, helping Tully, which no one knew that Blanchard and Ellering were aligned at the time. Now we do, obviously. So anyways, Tully and Ellering are in the Chris Cruz corner, where Cruz begins asking Tully about what happened last week in the main event. And Cruz specifically references Tully Blanchard saying that he would be going solo in GWA. But Tully has to correct him, because that's not the case. Tully says that stated that he never once said he was going solo. He just said he was stepping out of Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen's limelight. And he can still do that with a team behind him. And that's exactly what he and Ellering are planning on doing, forming a team of their own, people who they think are worthy to work alongside them. So they're going to be keeping a very close eye on the GWA roster from here on out. So yeah, Tully Blanchard, Paul Ellering. Let's see who else they can bring on board. And about that had a decent reaction from the crowd, but Subpar Wrestling, Dan Severn defeated Boris Zukov in 8:58 by submission with a beast choker. This match got a 55. I'm okay with a 55. So this is the only match that doesn't have a story or anything attached to it. It's just kind of a match to fill up some time, and I really wanted to test these guys out. They don't seem to click, which is upsetting, but still a 61 from Dan Severn. I'm pretty happy with that. I would love to try and push him in some capacity, but at the moment there's no story for him. Maybe at some point, but yeah, 61 performance, 55 match. I'm pretty happy with that. So now Lou Albano is backstage. He's in the catering area when Buddy Landel approaches him. Now, if you remember last week, Buddy Landel had a match against Barry Horowitz, and Lou Albano had said that he is looking for a new client on the tape because he believes, and as he rightfully believes, he's one of the greatest managers in all of professional wrestling. And so he wants to take on a new client in GWA and help push them to the top, right? Make a new world champion out of a new client. And so he was watching the Buddy Landel Barry Horowitz match from ringside. Buddy really wanted to impress Lou Albano, and Buddy got the win. He got it with a roll-up, but the roll-up just didn't really please Lou Albano, and he just looked unimpressed. So now Buddy Landel finds Lou Albano backstage and basically says just that. He says that he really wants to be Lou Albano's new client, but Lou just didn't look happy with how the match ended, and he just wants to know why. He just wants to know why Albano wasn't happy with that. Now, Lou says that he's been known to use some very underhanded tactics to win matches. A lot of cheating, a lot of distracting, whatever it may be. And he has no problem with his clients, the wrestlers that he manages, doing the same thing. There's nothing wrong with that in his eyes. However, he has to know that his client is capable of winning the match no matter what. So basically what he wants is he wants to see Buddy Landel get a clean victory. He wants to know that Buddy Landel is capable in the ring, and then he can take Landel on as his client, and then they can cheat till their heart's content, basically. Buddy's like, yeah, I can do that. No problem. I'll do it tonight. I'll issue an open challenge. I'll face anyone on the GWA roster, and you have my word, I will win with a clean victory. So an open challenge is set up for tonight, and that will be tonight's main event. It wasn't originally going to be tonight's main event. I'll tell you what the original one is later on, if I remember to. So now we have another segment. Scott Armstrong, he's making his way out to the ring. He has a match coming up against WCW star Cactus Jack. But before he enters the ring for his match, he stops by at the Chris Cruz corner and has a chat with Chris Cruz about his match with Jerry the King Lawler last week. It's basically been on Scott's mind for this past week that Lawler tried to end his career and put Scott on the shelf with a pole driver after the match was already over and done with. He's not going to let that slide, and Scott Armstrong is coming for revenge on the King. But then Austin Idol comes out and basically says that Scott Armstrong is a very talented wrestler, but if he wants revenge against Jerry Lawler, he has no chance, especially after losing to Jerry last week. Now, Austin Idol has been Jerry Lawler's #1 feud for many years. They go way back, and basically says that no one knows Jerry Lawler better than he does. More specifically, he says the only person that knows you better than your friend is your enemy. That's quote unquote. And so Austin Idol says, Scott Armstrong, if you want to get back at Jerry Lawler, let me train you. I know you're a trained and skilled wrestler, but I can train you the playbook of Jerry the King Lawler. And Scott's happy with it. Scott says, yeah, let's do it. Together, combined with their efforts, Scott thinks that Jerry Lawler doesn't stand a chance. But as for right now, Scott has a match with Cactus Jack that he needs to focus on. Austin Idol will be at ringside just so he can observe Scott up close so that he knows what he's working with. yeah, there's that. A 41, gets the job done, I guess. In a decent match, Cactus Jack defeated Scott Armstrong in 9:42 by pinfall with a double arm DDT. That gets a 61 rating, which I'm really happy with. Now, there's a few factors going into this result, right? You may ask why Scott is getting this kind of storyline focus. He just had a whole angle based on him, and then he loses to a guy who has nothing to do with the story. The main reason being Scott Armstrong has signed for WCW, and this is something we discussed in the previous episode as well. He's not going to be on the roster for much longer. So then the next question you may ask is, then why is he in the story at all? Originally, he was just going to be a match for Jerry Lawler in the first week and then leave, and he was just going to job out until he left. But I kind of want Scott Armstrong to continue in the story. I guess I just had a new kind of narrative decision since the last episode. And so he will continue in this storyline until he is no longer on the roster, which I think we have him for maybe 3 more weeks. I'm not sure. So yes, he may not... I can tell you he won't job out every week, though. He's not going to lose every match. The reason he lost this one, other than him leaving for WCW, is because Cactus Jack we tried out in the pre-show last week, and he was the best performer on the whole show, except for, I think, Jerry Lawler. So we really want to push Cactus Jack. At this time in Cactus Jack's WCW run, I think he's feuding with Sting, with soon-to-be Vader, and like Harley Race and whatnot. So he's a relatively big name at this point, basically. So yeah, we really want to push him. So those are just the several factors going into why Scott Armstrong is now a storyline focus, but still copping a loss. So in a bout that didn't have much heat and terrible wrestling, the New Breed defeated the Southern Boys in 9:52 when Sean Royal submitted Steve Armstrong. In terms of in-ring work, Tracy Smothers was head and shoulders above everyone else. So 52, we can do better, but yeah, the New Breed, not great performers, and we figured this out last week as well when they beat the Fantastics. But I do have story plans for the New Breed, and I really want them to improve. I'm just going to kind of continue with my story plans and hope that they improve along the way. If we get a certain stretch of time down the road and they still haven't improved, then, we're going to have a problem. But for now, yeah, I'm just going to keep booking them the way I intended originally. But yeah, their opponents, the Southern Boys, as we said earlier, they're the WCW United States Tag Team Champions. So the fact that the New Breed get a win over these guys is pretty big. Tracy Smothers with a great performance as well. Not much else to say about that match. After the match, the New Breed is standing in the ring and they're victorious. They're celebrating because they've just beaten some champions, right? Tully, Blanchard, and Paul Ellering make their way out onto the stage and they're applauding the New Breed. Basically, after 2 weeks, back-to-back wins, Tully and Paul Ellering let it be known that the New Breed are on their radar. Basically, the team that Tully and Paul were talking about making earlier, it looks like New Breed might be scouted for that in the near future. So now you can get some sort of idea as to where my story for the New Breed is headed. I hope I remember to censor the screen. If not, you can see what's about to happen. But Buddy Landell is in the ring, ready for his open challenge. Lord Barner's at ringside, just like he was last week for the match against Barry Horowitz. Buddy he's pumped, he's ready, he's keen, he really wants to make a good impression. And so that's what he plans on doing. But then the music hits, and it's not music that a wrestler ever wants to hear. As those iconic 3 words come over the speakers saying it's Vader time. Vader, the former IWGP heavyweight champion, makes his way out to the ring and basically just scares the crap out of Buddy and the crowd. I don't know why I can't scroll, but yeah, basically that's the whole point of it. Is Vader is here. Vader's in GWA. He's here to main event. He's here to accept Buddy Landel's challenge, his open challenge. Last week we talked about bringing Vader in because the ratings weren't quite what we expected, and so we knew we needed to bring in a big name, and Vader was the biggest name on our roster. So here he is. He's in GWA this week, and 76. This is based mainly on Vader's menace, so a 76 is really, really good, and he gets a pull for his gimmick, which isn't ideal, but you know, we'll manage. Yeah, so Buddy Landel is terrified now. However, he's so adamant that he wants to prove himself that he stands his ground. He thinks he still has a chance at beating Vader, which, spoiler alert, he does not. In a decent match, Vader defeated Buddy Landel in 11:23 by pinfall with a belly-to-belly suplex. A little bit of an anticlimactic way to end the match, but still, that's neither here nor there. 61, really good match. Probably not the best match we've had. We'll go and have a look. But a 73 from Vader, I can tell you that is the best performance we've had by an individual wrestler. 47 from Buddy Landel. I think that's about the same as he did last week. But yeah, just getting Vader in there, man, that's all we needed. Yeah, good stuff. Really happy with Vader's performance. And then I should also mention, I didn't want to make it a squash match. I really don't like squash matches. So Buddy Landel put on a performance. Obviously, it wasn't good enough. I imagine he was using some evasive strategies, but he didn't do anything cheap, anything dirty, anything underhanded, because he still wanted to prove himself to Lou Albano. It just wasn't enough in the end. So we finished that episode with a 59. We lost popularity in 11 regions. Could have gained popularity in 7 Canadian regions, but growth was restricted. Okay. I don't remember what the rating was for episode 1, but I'm going to assume it was better than this because lost pop in 11 regions is not great. In fact, I don't even remember what our popularity gain or loss was in the first episode because, I mean, it's been a few weeks since I recorded that episode. But we're going to click finish show. We're going to head back to the main screen and kind of evaluate that episode comparatively with the first one. But, you know, there's a lot of solid notes to take. Vader's performance being the main thing, really. Feedback from viewers has been that the show was good, although some found it underwhelming. Okay, well, that's embarrassing. Scott Armstrong is fatigued. We got 567,000 viewers. Which, how does... Okay, so 59 show rating, 55. Okay, so that was an improvement. That was an improvement, but we still need to take extra measures to try and improve the overall quality of the show. In terms of viewership, 559,000. It is to be shown. Wait, did it not just say? Or was it showing like, you know, it might have been showing the TV ratings from last week. I might have kept them there to show you guys and just forgot to show you guys. But yeah, there you go. On TLN, we got 8.8 thousand. USA Network, 560,000, basically. Yeah. Top matches. Okay, so we had 261 matches on that show, and that's really good. So the Jerry Lawler match is the one I was looking for. That's a 55. Because Jerry Lawler had the best individual performance on the first episode, so yeah, that's pretty much all we have to go through at the moment. This is what our Supercard schedule looks like. We have our anniversary show in January, which we're in week 4 now, so obviously that won't happen in this opening month anyways. Yeah, February will be our first Supercard, so I think we've got 3 more episodes before then. But yeah, that's episode 2 of Showcase done, episode 3 of this TEW series done. In summary, a lot of stuff to improve, a lot of stuff to work on, but some good outcomes overall. Let me know what you guys thought. Any ideas you might have about how I can improve, any potential names to sign. I do think we need to look at extending the length of the show in the near future. An hour just isn't really enough for us to fill out a great card, because obviously, I mean, we had to leave out a few of our top names. There was no Jerry Lawler, no Bob Backlund. Tully Blanchard was there but didn't have a match, so we might look at extending it to 2 hours soon, but we'll wait a while because I don't want to rush into it, basically. Yeah, with that said, let me know what you guys thought. Give me pay-per-view names, all that kind of stuff. Thank you guys so much for checking out this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.